Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to the Scottish Borders region once again and revisit the very first Scottish craft brew. So I am of course talking about Broughton Ales, and this beer is named after quite a famous Scottish knight, hence why I wear the blue and white today as our national colours. So this beer is called the Black Douglas, which is of course named after Robert the Bruce's general Sir James Douglas, and this beer is described as being a dark bitter, and it's got really good ratings actually, so I'm quite interested to try this one. I also have to thank Broughton Ales for supplying me with this beer. All the Broughton Ales you've seen me review recently have been supplied by the brewery, so a big thank you to the guys down there for that. And I think after this one I do still have another 2 beers to review from them, so you can look forward to those. But as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll take you through a very kind of brief history of the brewery. It will only be 2 minutes or so, but if you want to get straight to the tasting, feel free to fast forward. The brewery website is in the video description for you below, along with a link to my other Broughton reviews that I've done before, and there will be more added to that in the near future. And they do seem to be releasing a few more beers recently, so I'm sure I will get back and review them even when I've finished these ones. But anyway, Broughton Brewery was founded in 1979 by David Younger and James Collins in a former abattoir in the small village of Biggar in the Scottish Borders region. Now, Broughton Ales is regarded as the very first Scottish microbrewery, and originally they marketed themselves to customers looking for a craft beer experience as an alternative to the mass-produced lagers and export beers that kind of gripped Scotland at that time. So Collins and Younger released their first beer, which was the Green Mantle Ale, and this beer came out to great success, and the brewery as a result became very well known throughout Scotland, and the beer was in fact so popular that the locals soon began to refer to the brewery as the Green Mantle Brewery. And this beer, the Green Mantle Ale, is a really nice one, and it's considered a kind of cult classic by the older generation of beer lovers in Scotland. My dad always talks about the Green Mantle Ale and that he remembers it coming out, so you get an idea of kind of what age he is at that point anyway, but we'll not go there. But the Green Mantle Ale helped greatly increase the demand for small batch brewed beer in Scotland, and the brewery then decided to introduce a few more beers, and this was the Old Jock Ale, which was the very first one I tried from Broughton. Very nice beer actually, and probably the kind of benchmark for Scotch ales these days in my opinion. They also introduced Merlin Ale and the Scottish Oatmeal Stout, and each of these beers were actually named after a well-known character from the Scottish Borders. In 1995, however, the brewery underwent a change in ownership, and it was taken over by Gillis Litchfield, who introduced the moniker Beers with Character for a series of 10 different bottled ales, and he essentially wanted to increase the exports of the brewery, and he began doing this a year later in 1996, and the brewery has been growing very strongly ever since. But today the brewery exports to Italy, France, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Canada, the USA and Japan. I'm sure I actually saw their beers in Australia and New Zealand, when I was down there, so they've probably expanded further than that. But they produce 8 bottled beers, they have released a few newer ones recently, and they've also got 10 permanent casks and over 15 different seasonal beers. As I say, check out the brewery website and you will get an idea of all of these different beers when you have a look at it. But just to list a few of the other ones for you, in the regular range they have the Merlin's Ale, which is a bitter beer, Black Douglas, this one here, which is a dark, strong bitter, Border Gold, which is a golden ale, Oatmeal, which is an oatmeal stout, Exciseman's 80 Shilling, which is a strong bitter, the Gilly, which is also a bitter beer, Green Mantle, and the Organic Lager too. And they have released one that's called Blondie, I think, which is a blonde ale, and they've got another IPA that they've released recently, which I believe is called Real IPA, and they also have the 6.2 IPA, which is actually a very nice beer, and I have reviewed that for you before. So that's your kind of brief history of the Broughton Ales brewery, and I will just take you on to the tasting now then, I guess. So to tell you about this beer, this one is a 5.2% dark bitter beer. It's got a malt base of Optic Pale, Crystal and Black malts, and it's hopped with Challenger and Golding hops, which are actually grown in England. But to tell you the actual story behind the character of this beer, as I mentioned at the start of this video, the beer is named after Sir James Douglas, who was also known as the Black Douglas, but he was a very trusted friend of Robert the Bruce, the famous Scottish king. So the first meeting of the Black Douglas with the Bruce took place only a few miles up the Tweed Valley from the village of Broughton, and the Black Douglas was a very powerful knight and one of Scotland's heroes, whose daring exploits often brought him to the border country of Scotland, home of Broughton Ales. But the interesting thing about Black Douglas was he actually met Robert the Bruce just after he had killed his rival for the Scottish crown. That of course was John Comyn. So Robert the Bruce killed John Comyn in Dumfries Abbey, and for a long time after that Robert the Bruce feared that he was condemned to hell by God for having killed his rival to the Scottish crown in the church. But it was actually probably for the best that he did that, because the other king was more of a diplomat, whereas Robert the Bruce was a warrior, which the country really needed at that time. But the Black Douglas actually died in 1330, and he was carrying Robert the Bruce's heart on the field of battle in Teba in Spain, and at this point he'd actually stopped to assist King Alfonso XI in the capture of the Castle of the Stars. But Bruce's heart hadn't actually been intended to be taken to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. So Robert the Bruce, when he died, requested that his heart would be taken on pilgrimage to Jerusalem in Israel, or what is in Palestine at that time, but what is now Israel. So quite a cool story, and the Black Douglas really is a kind of Scottish hero if you know about him. He's not that well known because you've obviously got Wallace and Bruce, but if you read about him, he's a very, very interesting guy and a very good fighter apparently as well, which is obviously a trait we're very proud of in Scotland. So I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork on this one. There you can see Sir James Douglas there, you can see the Scotland flags and the hop flowers, the kind of typical Broughton Ales artwork. I do like how they produce their labels and things like that, and you can see the hop flowers just in the glass on the bottle there too. This one just has a plain bottle cap, which in this case is a kind of nice dark navy blue, but yeah, very, very nicely presented. A 5.2% bitter beer, as I told you. It has English Goldings and Challenger hops in it as well, which is quite ironic considering it's named after a Scottish hero who fought against Union and things like that, so quite a funny little point. But anyway, and it has a malt base of Optic Pale, Crystal and black malts too. So without further ado, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening here. Incidentally, Broughton Ales also sent me this glass when they sent me up my beers, so a big thank you again to them for enabling this video, and hopefully I can review a few more of their beers once I run out of the two that I still have left. I think it's Dark Dunter and Exciseman's 80 Shilling that I've still to review for you, so you'll see those videos coming up rather soon. So as you can see, the beer's poured a nice kind of mahogany sort of rosewoody colour. There's a kind of half finger of a frothy white head on there. I've only poured half of it, though I'll share the other half with my old man because he likes tasting my beers that I do. But you can see there's some big carbonation bubbles just stuck to the side of the glass there. If I put my fingers behind this, it's not transparent at all, but a very nice kind of sort of mahogany, slightly rosewoody colour there with a kind of nice ruby tint to the edges there. The head on this one is just fading away to be a very thin foamy layer, but it looks a very, very nice beer. And the goblet glass that Broughton Ales sent me is really nice as well. So let's give this guy a smell and see how we get on here. So what's actually striking me about this beer, first off, is that it actually smells more like a Scotch ale, if I'm honest with you. It's got the nice big kind of dark caramel notes in it, but it's definitely described as being a kind of extra special bitter, an ESB or English style bitter, but it's meant to be a dark bitter as well. But in honesty, it really does actually smell like a Scotch ale. So you've got a nice big bready character in there, a lot of kind of dark and toasted caramel sweetness too, a little bit of biscuit, I would say. There is a definite kind of biscuity sort of grainy character to it, which is always what you expect from a bitter beer, of course. But it's a little bit spicy. You can really pick up the sort of oatmeal and cereal that's in this beer. But there is a kind of nutty tint to it as well, so it's got a nice caramel sweetness and a nice big bready character, but it's almost got a little bit of kind of treacle and molasses, or molasses as the Americans would call it. But a definite kind of dark brown roasted sugar element coming out of this beer. But you can also pick up the typical kind of red fruits that you expect from a Scotch ale, the sort of plums, raisins and kind of figs. It is more of a figgy aroma, but there is a little bit of the sharper notes that you'd expect from raisins and plums. So it actually smells very, very nice. And it's actually one of the more, the more pungent noses you would get from the Broughton Ales. A lot of them have this, the Broughton Ales really have this kind of typical, this trademark cereally and bready aroma, and a little bit of caramel in there too, and this one really does kind of typify that actually, but it does smell more like a Scotch ale because of the fruitiness in it. But without further ado, we'll toast to Sir James Douglas, a soldier of Scotland, Alba Gubrath and Slàinte for now. Yeah, quite interesting. It might smell like a Scotch ale, but it really doesn't taste like it. It definitely is more of a bitter, but it's got a nice dark roasted character to it with a little bit of that red fruit in there. So different to any bitter I've had, actually. As I've pointed out before in some of these Broughton Ales beers, the bitter style isn't really my favourite, but this one is definitely quite interesting. I've never had a beer that a bitter beer that is quite as dark as this. So yeah, you've got a nice, it has what you would expect from the aroma. You've got a nice big bready character that just blankets the middle of the tongue. There is a little bit of sweet caramel in there, but it's kind of overpowered a little bit by the sort of roasted character that's in there. There's a definite slightly smoky and roasted character in there. Not sweet smoky like some of the Rauch beers and stuff, but a more dark, slightly bitter, ashy flavour in this one, but it's really nicely done. A very dark roasted malt base on this that just goes around the edges of the tongue there, just a little bit in from the edges. Around the edges of the tongue you're getting the kind of more fruity characteristics. At the very back of the tongue, right on the edge, you're getting the sort of earthy hop that comes out of this, and as you move a little bit further forward, I think there's just a little bit of grassiness in there, but then you're getting on the very kind of front curve of the tongue, that's where you're getting the nice fruity characteristics, the kind of fruity esters that come out of this beer. A little bit of plum and a little bit of raisin in there. But yeah, it's actually quite a spicy beer. You get that kind of bready blanket that just goes over the tongue, then as you move further out you get the kind of dark roasted character, but right in the middle you've got a little bit of a more lighter bread character, and on top of that you're getting the sort of cereal spice coming out of this one. And there is just a little bit of biscuity sweetness in there too, but the most prominent component of the malt base in this beer, I would say, is the kind of dark roasted character, and obviously that's going to be the kind of black malts that are going into this beer. But you can definitely pick up the lighter element that you would expect from the crystal and pale malts in this. As the liquid's still on your tongue, you just feel a little bit of fruity red fruit character go away, and then if you just notice that building on the middle of your tongue, then that's when you're getting the lighter sort of pale malts coming out, and it's actually a very well done beer, this. As I say, I'm not a great fan of the bitter style, but Broughton Ales for me seem to be able to hit the spot when it comes to it. I do actually quite enjoy this one. This is probably one of the best bitter beers I've had, actually. I would quite happy go into a pub and order one of those if I saw it on tap, which I can't say for any other bitter beer apart from I think Wildcat from Cairngorms Brewery. So to get up there, that was a really nice bitter beer, so for it to get up there, in my opinion, in Scottish beers does actually say something. So this is a really well done bitter beer, and it's a bit quirky as well because it's a little bit darker and has that fruity character to it. But overall, this is a really nice beer. It's got some interesting characteristics. It's not like any other bitter I've ever tried before, so I would recommend that you give it a go. But a nice big bready blanket, good bit of cereal spice in there. As you move out towards the edge of the tongue, you're getting a bit more of that kind of black malt roasted character, bit of earthy hop at the very back of the palate. As you move forward, some more grassiness, and then around the kind of front curve of the tongue and over the top you're getting the sort of fruity esters in there as well. So overall, very nice beer. A little bit of caramel and biscuity sweetness in there as well, I should point out. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would definitely say quite mid-bodied. The carbonation is a little bit more active than some of the other Broughton ones from what I remember. But yeah, what you'll notice with the carbonation is that it does leave behind the sort of slightly bitterish, dark roasted character from the malt, so it works quite well for this beer, I think. But it's a nice kind of mid-bodied beer, smooth carbonation, just a little bit more prickly that brings out some of the ashy character, as I say, but there's a nice malty sweetness to this and a nice kind of roasted bitter character that lingers there too. But you've also got just a nice little bit of juicy fruit too. But the main component of the mouthfeel in this one, I think, really is the dark roasted bitterness. So overall, this is a really interesting bitter beer, not like any one that I've actually tried before. As I told you, not my most favourite style of beer, I have to admit, but they've done this one very well, and I would seriously drink this on tap if I did see it in a pub. I would definitely order it as one of my first choice beers. And the only other bitter beer I can say for that I think I can think of is the Wildcat from Cairngorms. So this is a really interesting bitter beer, a nice dark one if you like your kind of dark roasted beer, so definitely worth checking out. But again, it's another pretty awesome beer from Broughton Ales. If I had the choice with them, I would probably always pick the Old Jock Ale or perhaps the 6.2 IPA, and that's simply a style preference. But again, this is a really nice beer that I would recommend you check out, particularly if you like dark beers and particularly if you like the bitter style of beer. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. It's been really cool to return once again to the Broughton Ales Brewery. I always enjoy visiting these guys. I thank you again to them for supplying the beer for this video. Please let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this beer if you do happen to have tried it before. I always enjoy reading them, and please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I've got a few more reviews to come for you from Broughton Ales, so stay tuned for those, but slàinte for now.